Hello, everyone. It's another episode of Astrology Now, and Babula and I are back with you to give you some news about the next lunar cycle, which, if you got through the last one, you better buckle up because there's another one coming. so, and I have to say, it has not been a smooth ride, Babula.
It
At
has
all.
not been a smooth ride at
No.
all. It's very, but a lot of people, I'm getting that feedback. A lot of people are really feeling it.
But
Yeah.
the next cycle that we're going to come into, I read someone, I read on someone's website that they described it as uh, zombies on a roller coaster. I thought, Holy Mother of God, what are we going to go through
I
now?
know it's a ripper, it's a ripper, this one. Well, this whole phase we sort of talked about it a bit last time, this Scorpio time of the year with the eclipses and Mars turning retrograde and Jupiter retrograding back into Pisces. There's just so much going on. So it's intense, and it's been intense, and the intensity ain't over yet.
Mm.
So yeah.
Mm.
So
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, just as an example of the last lunar eclipse, because that Scorpio energy, things coming to an end as well. And
that's
for me, it's been like we've got three big trees in the front yard. They've got to come down and they've been in the front of my house for they've been there ever since I moved here, which is nearly 28 years, and I love them, but they've got to come down now because one's dying and the others are too close to the house and they've become massive. And then there's my car that I love, but I've had it far too long, for 20 years. It's giving signs it's got to go.
wow, yes.
And then, some of the work that I'm doing has sort of come to an end, a natural ending. And then my mother's had a health episode as well. So there's all these sort of things that have happened just in this last lunar cycle. I've been unwell as well.
Yes.
Um, so there are sort of examples of how that Scorpio energy can culminate a lot of things all at once, huh?
Exactly. And it often really like heightens drama and intensity. And you're right, endings and
Yeah.
deaths, literally, and as a metaphor, just things coming to closure. And when we're in eclipse season, which we are every 6 months, eclipses anyway are so often times of endings and closure and completion, and quite often dramatic things happen, dramatic turning points and crisis. But when it's in Scorpio, wow, I mean, that's just multiplied, because this is always the time of the year, eclipses or not, when the sun's moving through Scorpio. And of course, we've also got Mercury in Scorpio currently, and Venus, and of course the South Node's been in Scorpio all year, and now the eclipse is happening here, and the previous 2 weeks ago at the new moon we had the solar eclipse that's in Scorpio. And so it's very intense, it's very potent, it's very powerful. And yes, my story, my Scorpio daughter a week ago suddenly was intense pain, and she thought it was something else that sometimes causes her a bit of pain, and then it passes, but it wasn't abating and it wasn't going. And a painkiller she sometimes uses for that didn't touch her. Ended up having to call an ambulance, and ended up 4 nights in hospital, having significant operation. And I've been really reflecting on this. This is the kind of thing that happens with Scorpio. And so she's had a gallbladder removed. Whatever our opinions are about that, and medically and health-wise, everyone has different opinions. It was clear it was a crisis and a critical situation, and something really significant had to be done. So then we deal with the aftermath. So, an organ's gone now.
Yeah.
Right, it's gone. And that's the kind of thing, because it was causing a real problem in the body with other organs and so on. So That's so Scorpio. And of course, then it was so intense because, I'm looking after the two children. And so I was exhausted before that happened. And now I'm really exhausted. But, in a crisis,
Mm.
that's what you do. You just
Yeah.
do what you have to do and
Yeah.
get through it and do the best you can. And they're just examples, like you're saying, of the kinds of things many people are experiencing.
Mm. Mm.
Living in very intense times anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it's just par for the course, isn't it, really?
I know.
In the last couple of years. So, but yeah,
Yeah,
there are times when it's even more intense and you think, oh my God, what?
that's
I
right.
can't go through this.
That's right. And that's what happened to me. I thought, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And yet I did.
Yeah.
And we did. And I'm always looking for, and what are the positives that are coming out of this, as tough as it is. And I'm not denying the toughness at all. I'm total advocate for, facing up to the reality of life. And sometimes it ain't easy.
Yeah.
But there's always something. I find there's always a gem in there somewhere. So I always look for that. And yeah. And
Mm.
it and there is always something of real value that comes out of these things. So yeah, folks, we just share these stories to say, if you're going through something tough, you're not alone. You're absolutely not. It's a very intense period just now, and it has been for 3 years. A lot of people are feeling quite tired and exhausted. It's been very strong, and it and this eclipse that's coming up now at the full moon that we're going to talk about, it really is a big, powerful eclipse. So we often say, a lunar eclipse is a full moon on steroids. Well, this is an eclipse on steroids, even in the eclipse world. It's very, very potent. Now, I don't want to alarm people when I say that, because sometimes eclipses, they're always catalysts and they're always turning points, and they often denote times of, endings and new beginnings. Things come to an end, a completion, a phase, a situation, a body. And because it's calling for something new that needs to happen. Shift. It's a catalytic shift. And quite often people will experience amazing, fantastic breakthroughs at these times.
Yeah.
In the midst of a hardship, they might experience it mostly in a very positive way, but significant nonetheless.
Yeah. And I think that those times of intensity is when we crack open and the light can come in,
Exactly.
and move us to a different way. And I just wanted to point out too that while I've been in bed unwell for how long? Nearly a week now. That there's a lot of time for reflection about life, and you often use the analogy of the caterpillar turning into a butterfly, and I sort of felt like this last week I've been in the mush, the mushy phase before something new happens. And I think we have to always focus on that. This is when the potential for the new arrives.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so imagery like that, and the child in the womb, in a place of darkness. So Scorpio is a sign that holds the dark, you could say. And when I say the dark, it's such a loaded word, but I include both the dark in the sense of, the evil, nasty monsters in the dark and what's lurking in the dark in a really negative, destructive sense, but also the dark as a place of deep rest and purification and healing and divinity, the divine darkness. So it's kind of all included. And that's where we are in Scorpio. We can feel like we're in a dark place, something like a child in a womb, in that place of darkness, or, being unwell and going to bed and just having to shut down. It's sometimes we just need to stop.
Yes.
Stop.
Yeah, and I've actually been reading quite a bit of a lot while I've been in bed, and I came across the term what was it? Not hustle culture or burnout culture. It's another one, but it all means the same thing. And I sort of thought, and the antidote to that is a rest culture. And this is the rest that Scorpio makes us have. Says,
Exactly.
boom, stop.
Yes, yes.
I know. Sorry, grind culture was the word I was thinking. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. And how you wake up to the daily grind, whether waking up to the daily sunshine.
Yes.
That sort of thing. Yeah.
And it's so interesting you say that, because what I just went through was a very intense week where every day it was, yes, I can do this, I can get through this because I have to, and to put their needs first and just do what I have to do and keep breathing through the intensity of it. But I've lost my thread there. It was something you said. It was a gem.
Daily grind. Daily
grind. And recognizing how, I was feeling this sense of burnout, but recognizing that actually I've been feeling that for quite a long time. And this has just really highlighted it and brought it right in front of my face.
Yes. Yeah.
And that I need to make some changes.
Yeah, same here. I went through exactly
can't go on
the same
like that.
thing. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, that's right. So it's almost like in Scorpio and during these eclipses, things come to such a crescendo that something has to change, something has to give, and I've had other moments like that in my life. And then it's a pivotal moment, like a second where you go, I can't do this anymore. A moment of utter clarity, and then something's ready to shift.
Yeah.
So
it's that reevaluation, deciding what you're going to let go of.
That's right. That's right. And getting really clear about what priorities are and, so on. Yeah.
So let's hear about zombies on the roller coaster.
Well, yes. I mean, it's a time of shedding, but the roller coaster. So let's start breaking this down, because, and I did print out the chart and I realized I didn't bring it into the studio where I'm sitting right now. Silly me, I had it all ready to sort of hold up, because visually it's quite dramatic. Could we post it when we post the video? Is that possible to post an image? I mean, when you share the video on YouTube, is that a doable thing?
Not really. You mean underneath? No, not really.
No, that's fine. That's fine. If anyone wants, it's around. If you're on Facebook, there's astrologers posting about this stuff all the time. But so let's break this down. There's a lot of other planets involved in this eclipse. So it's a lunar eclipse on the 8th of November, which means it's a full moon lunar eclipse when the moon will be eclipsed. And what that means is that at the full moon, the sun and the moon are opposite each other, and the earth is passing between them. And so the light from the sun hits the earth and casts a shadow on the moon. So it's the earth's shadow that, and it will be visible anywhere in the world where the eclipse is occurring at nighttime if you have a clear night sky. So if you can see the full moon, and in Brisbane, I think it's around 9:30 in the evening, which will be an hour later in the southern states with daylight savings. So yeah, it's the shadow of the earth that's passing in front of the moon, eclipsing the moon, putting the moon in shadow. And there's 100 things to say about eclipses and so on. They're parts of bigger cycles and so on. But when an eclipse, the full moon eclipse, has a lot of other planets connected to it, makes it more complex and layered and even more powerful, particularly when one of those planets happens to be one like Uranus.
Oh
yes. He's a mover and a shaker, big time. So I'll list all the planets, and I'm aware that some of the people who watch this are very familiar with astrology and how it works, and some not so. So this might sound a bit of gobbledygook to some. Full moon eclipse always involves the sun and the moon because they're exactly opposite. And when it's a total eclipse, as this one is, the north and south nodes are really close to the sun and the moon, which they are. They're very close. So it's a total full moon eclipse. So the shadow of the Earth will make a full shadow on the sun, on the moon, blocking out the light of the moon. I'm a bit tired, so if I jumble my words, my apologies.
That's all right. It sounded normal to me. Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there. Yeah. So the sun and the moon, the north and south nodes are involved. Mercury's also involved because Mercury's in Scorpio with the sun. Venus is there. So we've got the sun, Mercury, Venus, and the south node all in Scorpio as a part of this eclipse. On the other side, the moon conjunct the north node and exactly conjunct Uranus. They are at the same degree of 16 degrees of Taurus. That is a doozy. Like, that is really powerful. So this is a very Uranian eclipse across the Taurus Scorpio axis. Now, in addition to all of that, so we've got this gathering of planets on the Scorpio end and on the Taurus end. All of this makes a really powerful square or T-square up to Saturn in Aquarius. So Saturn's involved as well. So it's very, very strong. And it's, I guess, a few words we could use to describe this. It's about what I was saying before. It's like something's got to give.
Yeah.
It's immense pressure.
Yeah.
And whatever's going on in our own individual lives, like the intensity and the pressure that I've been under in this last week, it was hanging in because I have to. You hang in and discover that you actually can when you have to.
Yeah.
But also recognizing something has to change here. The way in my life somehow. So it's the buildup of tremendous pressure with this catalytic eclipse, more catalytic than usual, that's going to manifest in the outer world. Already seeing it. Cracks are happening everywhere. Things are cracking open. So it can be very challenging in many ways. There'll be a lot of sudden dramatic circumstances, issues arising for people, not even just on that date, just even around that date, or during this eclipse period. And
well, that
in the outer world as well, big things happening in the world. Big things are happening in the world.
Yeah. So that energy, though, you've said before, it'll last 6 months.
Yes.
Yeah.
It kind of sets the tone, you could say.
Yeah.
But it's at its critical point now. Like, for example, looking into people who were born close to an eclipse, within days of eclipse, they often live very big, significant lives fated. It's like, we could say all our lives are in the hands of fate to many degrees.
Yeah.
People born on eclipses, many people in the British royal family are born around eclipses, many of them generationally. And they live very fated, significant lives, large lives. And that's true for many individuals as well. It's a significant thing, and many people depart this world around eclipses as well. We'll be seeing a lot of that also. So the Saturn squaring these eclipses is those energies of control. We've been talking about this for 2 years because the Saturn-Uranus square has been in place for 2 years now. And this feels like the final sort of crescendo of that particular square between that Saturnian urge for control of external authorities and the urge for rebellion and freedom represented by Uranus, the freedom of the people.
Yeah.
But this intense, challenging pressure as they challenge each other has been going on. And this eclipse brings it all to a head. And after this eclipse, Saturn will start to move away slowly by the end of the year from that square. And next year, he'll actually leave Aquarius and go into Pisces. It feels to me like this eclipse represents a tremendous release.
Okay.
Yeah, like a build-up and a build-up and a build-up, and then something cracking wide open because Uranus right on that moon which is the lunar eclipse, right on it, on the north node, says we're going this way. We're breaking this open to take us forward. And Uranus has a lot to do with revelation.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Revelation, consciousness, awareness, seeing things from a much higher, even cosmic perspective. You know, it just cracks us open to a much higher reality and a bigger picture about what's really going on.
Yeah. But unexpected ways.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Shocks, surprises.
So there's no point trying to plan for the unexpected because you just can't.
No.
Yeah. So
Like who knew my daughter, this was going to happen to my daughter?
That's right. Yeah.
No one saw that coming.
No.
So yeah, things can happen like that suddenly. And so there has to be an immediate adjustment to this new reality.
Yes. Yeah. So be quick on your feet, people.
Yes, and it's I'm realizing that, you know, something have always been, but more acutely of late, recognizing in me the need to let go even more, you know, because we like to hold on to things, ideas, beliefs, a way of being, objects, people, you name it.
Yeah.
And I think we're all of humanity is learning how to just, you know, let go. It's also to me about it brings us right back into the moment, doesn't it? So you had to whatever you had planned for the week.
Yeah. Boom.
Gone.
Yeah. Just cancel.
Whatever I had planned for the week, and still, because I'm not out of that yet, you know, she's home, but you know, she's at about 30% capacity or 40%, you know, so you just have to put it all aside.
Yeah. Just let it go. Yeah.
Deal with the reality. And that's Saturn too, you know, this is the reality.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. And so let me break it down, because all the way through to about mid-November, on a daily basis, each of these planets involved in this eclipse, and some of them are fast-moving inner planets, they all come into exact alignment with other pieces of this eclipse story, this big T-sequence.
Yeah.
Right? So one by one, like now that one clicks into place, and that one, then that one. So it's this kind of rolling daily process. Yeah. So
I feel tired already.
I know. I was just about to say, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
I know. So it's okay. So I think it's you know, again, it just feels to me like come back to now, back to now, back to now. We're dealing with now. And sure, we make plans, and some of them fall into place and the others don't, and we adjust. So 6th of November, the sun is exactly conjunct the south node at 13 of Scorpio, and Venus makes an opposition to Uranus at 17 Taurus Scorpio. So they're two pieces of this eclipse story that click in on the 7th. Mercury's on the south node in Scorpio, and then Venus squares the Saturn. So for those who are astrologically fairly literate, that will make some sense. I won't go into exactly what all those mean, because, you know, how can you say in a sentence what each of those means anyway? So then on the 8th, the eclipse itself occurs in the east coast of Australia in the evening at exactly 16 degrees of Taurus. So anyone with planets or angles, such as an ascendant or a midheaven, or the nodes or some significant things in their chart, in those middle degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, 15, 16, 17, 18, those kinds of degrees, we'll be really experiencing this particularly strongly.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah. And, you know, and I get fit because I post on Facebook about these things, and lots of people respond and, you know, share a little bit about what's happening with them. And, you know, some people are going, oh my God, tell me about it. I'm really in it. And others saying, wow, this is amazing. This has been
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's not the same for everyone.
No, it's not. No.
It's not.
Yeah.
You know, for some, it can be really big positive changes. And then on the 9th, the sun, still at 16, is exactly conjunct Mercury. And then they're both in opposition to Uranus. So I just list these to show that that whole week period around the eclipse, there's all these things kind of all clicking into place. Okay, so then on the 10th and 11th, the Sun and Mercury square the Saturn. So these fast-moving inner planets are making these direct contacts with the nodes and Saturn and Uranus. But then, and this will be happy news for everyone, on the 16th of November, Venus leaves Scorpio. Yay, I hear everyone say, goes into Sagittarius. The following day, Mercury leaves Scorpio. And when I say leave Scorpio, meaning they come out of the underworld. All right. They come out of the underworld, having done that deep inner work of deep transformation, purging, and purification. So that's what Scorpio is all about. And then on the 22nd of November, the sun leaves Scorpio and goes into Sagittarius. That cusp of Scorpio Sag has always struck me as being such a dramatic change of energy from the deepest, darkest depths of the underworld, literally out into the light of day. But we had to go down into that intensity, you know, that purification and that deepening has to happen as part of the yearly cycle. This one just happens to be particularly strong because there is a lot of darkness in this world, on this planet.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
just is. That's just the reality, whether we like it or not, whether we want to face that or not. There's a lot of darkness and a lot of controlling forces operating from a place of darkness. So this is big. I do feel that this first half of November, and I'm seeing it everywhere, it's happening. A lot of it's behind the scenes, but it's coming out into the public space more as things crack open. By the way, it's worth mentioning, many of you will be aware of this. On the 8th of November, when this big earthquake total eclipse occurs, and I say earthquake because Uranus does rule earthquakes, and it's likely to be earthquakes on the planet, but it's also earthquake as a metaphor, like it's shock waves and earthquakes. It's the same date as the American midterm elections, and it's critical election as the US goes through its Pluto return. This is a kind of do or die kind of situation for the United States and thus for the world. So how extraordinary that they're having that election on the date of this huge momentous eclipse. So buckle up, folks. We don't know what's going to happen, but anything could happen here. At best, I'm hoping it's just going to crack things wide open. Wide open, not just a little bit. We've had little cracks, but big. So that shift into Sagittarius is welcome news. It's always welcome news in late November when the sun leaves Scorpio. But this time it's Venus and Mercury leaving around the same time as well, because they're often fairly close to each other, but not always exactly in the same sign. You know, which takes us then to the new moon in Sagittarius on the 24th. That's such a change of energy, and it brings in a sense of optimism, of hope, of expansion, of, oh, that feels better.
Exactly.
As we come out and feel like we can breathe again and expand again.
And
move again.
And culturally, the Western world generally moves into that Christmas spirit. You know, there's like It's like being turned inside out in a way.
That's right.
You suddenly go from what you're saying, that darker, heaviness,
It is
that
heavy.
light-hearted, fun, partyish
Mm.
celebration of, of summer and the harvest and
That's
all
right.
those things. It's just so nice. And I love it because I am a Sag.
Yeah, so Sagittarians are really here to not only to be inspired, but to be inspiring, to inspire and uplift. They're often teachers, they're often larger than life, fun, exuberant, always on the move, traveling, exploring. There's a certain kind of wild energy. And I say that in the sense that they love the big, wide open spaces, get in the car, go for it. That's the time when these planets move into Sag. Even if, in your schedule, you can't get away on a holiday, you're going to feel like it.
Mm.
But, just take a day trip, even just jump in the car and head to the beach. Like, get outside under the sky and breathe and expand and let everything open up, because that really helps to move things forward, yeah, yeah. So yes, positivity, feeling more hopeful again.
Yeah.
At the moment, things just feel a bit heavy going and a bit grim and intense and so on. And look, honestly, some people love the Scorpio energy and this time of year. Some people really do, but I must say, even those who do, this is particularly strong this year. It's particularly strong.
Yeah.
I mean, just to sort of give a bit of an overview of the last year or so, like this year, all 4 eclipses have been sitting across that Taurus Scorpio axis. So the eclipses have all been very potent. Last year there were 2, and the other 2 were back in the Gemini Sag nodal eclipse story. And so this one, I kind of wrote them all down and looked at the main features of them. And what I was seeing was this one feels like absolutely the culmination of all of the eclipses this year. Like the biggie. They've all been big. But yeah, really, really the biggie.
Just reminds me of fireworks, like when you go and watch a session of fireworks, you have all these, and there's more here and there's more there. And then they have the final round of fireworks, like, just all blow up.
Exactly. And I think blowing up, God, this one is fairly explosive, actually. I mean, sometimes Uranus is connected to explosions, like dramatic, sudden, shocking events. Yeah. And so let's talk for a minute a bit more about Uranus. Uranus is the great awakener and the change agent. He is that energy, that planet that brings change, and often through shock.
Yeah.
And just as I say the word shock, I think the antidote to, sometimes we're in shock. If we go into shock, we're not in our body.
Yes, we split off.
We split off. Even like if you have a car accident, even if it's not a extremely serious one, there's an element of shock. And our nervous system and brain get like heightened, the adrenals swing into action. And it's really not easy in those moments to stay fully present, unless we've been practicing that for years, to stay really present and grounded in the body. So an antidote to very potent Uranian energy is grounding.
Yeah.
Water, getting into the sea, getting into a bath, even under the shower, like be really conscious of letting that water cleanse and release, but bare feet on the earth, the garden. We've been saying this many times, but I think this is a really important one. Because if big things do crack open, there will be shock for many people. And it can turn everything completely upside down and inside out. So grounding is really important.
It is interesting how we naturally do that as a response, don't you think? That over the last couple of years, how people have set up their veggie garden and they spend more time in their garden.
That's
And
right.
I've seen many people say it's therapy, not about the growing the food. It's therapeutic, and it's just like we have this ability to naturally balance ourselves if we're in tune,
Yeah,
and I think that's one of the great things about being human.
that's right.
We have all these things hardwired into us.
That's right. And we can do these things. That's right.
Mm,
That's
mm,
right.
mm,
So, but yeah, it does. We need to be aware of it. And, and I've found too, if something big's happening and things are really intense and a bit challenging, sometimes we forget the simple things that we know support us.
mm,
And someone will say, "Oh, have you taken something?" It might be a homeopathic remedy or some drops that normally help, like something as simple as rescue remedy, which I find just it does what it says, it's very well known.
yeah.
Sometimes we forget in those moments.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And so all of those things that are in our toolkit, whatever it is, and everyone's, whether it's smudging or whatever it is, trying to remember to use them, to make, because they're all going to be helpful. Eating well and grounding food and so on.
Mm,
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens with that Uranian energy is it shocks us out of our what we know,
That's right.
and so like you say, we can forget.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And sometimes we don't even know we're in shock. And it can be someone else who's very aware and sensitive to these things. Because this happened to me once after an accident. She looked at me and she was a healer and she said, "You're in shock." I said, "Am I?" She said, "Yeah, you're not fully in your body." And she laid me down and did a healing session. And I could feel myself coming back into my body.
Mm,
And it really alerted me to that, that when we're in shock, we don't even realize that we are.
yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah. So Uranus brings often sudden, unexpected, like you were saying earlier, we can't predict what's going to happen because that's the nature of Uranus. It can be
mm,
totally unpredictable.
mm,
But ultimately very liberating. His job is to awaken and liberate. And
mm,
hallelujah to that, I say.
mm.
So he's going to do a big job on this eclipse. He's been working very hard, actually, the last couple of years. Uranus has really been working hard.
No more overtime. I'm sorry. That's off the list. Forget it.
My God, what a wild ride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So is that the end of our lunar cycle predictions? Or
Yes, it's really like this first half of November is really all about this eclipse.
mm.
And then in the second half, there's that shift as we move into Sag and that sense of upliftment and big. I just keep wanting to take big breaths when I even start talking about it. Oh, I feel like I can expand again.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
a good Christmas season will help you through that.
Yes, and that reminds me what I was going to say before when you started talking about Christmas and celebration, what a party is. All good Sagittarians are very good at, and I know many who absolutely that. In America, it's also the time of Thanksgiving,
Mm, mm,
as a prelude to Christmas.
yeah.
So, and I think that's an important thing too. That that theme of giving thanks and being grateful for what we have coming out of that challenging Scorpio period
Mm,
is really helpful for expanding our awareness and so on. Yeah.
yeah. Gratitude.
Yep.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And to celebrate in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, look, even in the midst of all of this, when my daughter came home, the next day it was her birthday. because, you know, Scorpio. And so for the children, like, she can't drive yet. She won't be able to for, I don't know, a week or two maybe. So I thought, all right, I'll get some kind of little cakes just for the kids so that they've got candles and balloons for Mummy's birthday. Well, I found this decadent little, from a specialist bakery, decadent little divinely sumptuous chocolate cake. And so it felt like, it was like a little bit of Sagittarian decadence.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Sagittarian.
Yeah, I do.
Decadence. Yeah. In the midst of all of that. And we all enjoyed it so much. It was lovely.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
just taking those small moments, you know, to celebrate and enjoy, even, you know, in the midst of challenging circumstances, can be helpful.
Yes. Oh, that's wonderful. You have to tell me the name of the store. I have to go get some.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Oh, well, thank you for taking us through all that. And I'm glad we both made it through.
Yes, that's right.
You exhausted, me ill, but we survived. We got it done.
We got through it. Yeah.
Oh, so there you go, folks. Our energy levels may not be what we might ordinarily have, but we hope you enjoyed that and the information will be helpful for you.
Yeah.
And know that the wheels of the planetary movements keep moving. So whatever you're going through, this too shall pass. That's for sure.
This too shall pass. That's
yeah.
Good things are on the horizon.
Until next time, which will be, what is it, the 24th of November for the
for the Sagittarius new moon.
Yeah, that'll be party time.
Party time.
Yeah. Okay. So remember, if you enjoyed this episode, please like it. Remember, if you want to subscribe to get notices, tap the bell and share it around with your friends. So until next time, take care and stay safe.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.